Hello and welcome to the She Reads Romance Books podcast, the ultimate show for romance book lovers looking for the best books worth reading. I'm your host, Leslie Murphy, and in each short episode, I share my favorite book list of recommendations so you know exactly what to add to your must-read list. Join me as I explore the romance genre and have fun collecting book boyfriends along the way, because life is better with a love story. Hey readers, it is one of my favorite times of the year when I get to look ahead to all of the new romance book releases for the coming year. So if you are looking for the most anticipated new romance books that will drop in 2025, then look no further as I put together the ultimate list. But first, a word from our sponsor. If you like romance stories that are uplifting and entertaining, then check out The Scarlet D by Kirsten Purcell. Fueled by unrealistic expectations of Nicholas Sparks' novels, Scarlet moves across the country to South Carolina after her marriage ends. Seeking like-minded women, she joins a divorced women's book club, discovering they may not be so alike. Her dormant desires are awakened when she meets Ben, an attractive younger man. But Beau, the self-assured, age-appropriate man, opens her heart to love. And then there's Carter. Follow Scarlet in this witty, warm, and wise coming-of-middle-aged romance, available on Amazon and other online retailers. Okay, so I picked out the top 25 new romance book releases for 2025, of which I am going to talk about my top 10. Maybe a few more in this episode, or we'll be here all day, honestly, because I could probably talk about all 25. But you can check out my entire list of 25 most anticipated new romance books for 2025 on shereadsromancebooks.com. And I'll be sure to include a link to that book list in the show notes as well, so it's easy peasy to get to. But to be honest, it super hard to narrow this list to just 25 new romance book releases for 2025 because so many new releases have already been announced already here before the end of 2024, but I did it and I cannot wait to share them all with you in this episode and in the full book list. But of course, there are so many more to look forward to, even beyond my list, as I mentioned. So be sure to continually check my upcoming releases page for the latest new releases. In fact, you should just head over there now, bookmark it for easy access, check it every day, every week, and then I'm updating it. And then also be sure to sign up for my newsletter if you haven't already, because that's where I highlight new romance releases every week and my favorites for each month, so you don't want to miss those. And one way to sign up for my newsletter right now is to take my new book quiz. If you haven't seen it, my new book quiz is going to help you discover your favorite holiday book boyfriend. So this new quiz, it's only up until the end of the year. So head over to shereadsromancebooks.com and take it now. It's easy to find. It'll pop up or be on the top menu. It's super fun. I've loved hearing from readers who are enjoying it and loving finding who their holiday book boyfriend is, and loving the personal recommendations that I offer based on who your favorite holiday book boyfriend is, which is pretty cool. Okay, so as I said, head over to She Reads Romance Books right now, take that quiz. Otherwise, if you're listening to this in 2025, quiz is already gone, you can sign up for my newsletter still, and I will send you my list of top book boyfriends. So everybody wins when you sign up for my newsletter. Now, in this episode, I'm talking about my most anticipated new romance books, but I'm probably going to make a separate episode. Actually, not probably. I am making a separate episode on my most anticipated new romantasy books that are set to release in 2025. Gosh, I cannot talk today. Because there are a slew of these books coming out next year. So I just had to make my completely new book list, just focusing on romantasy. So be on the lookout for that episode as well to really fill up your TBR list for 2025 when it's still only 2024. Whoa, so that's really 50 new titles. Well, 49 because one is a crossover. long before January even hits. But I'm not sorry that I'm filling your TBR list up that much. I'm really not, because these are awesome. So get ready. Oh, and one last thing. If you want to talk about the most anticipated new romance books of 2025, be sure to head over and join the She Reads Romance Books book club. And stay tuned for our book of the month selections, because many of those will be from this list already and that I'm hoping for the future. We have so much fun chatting about our book of the month together. And the icing on the cake truly is our Zoom calls every month with the author of those books. They have all been, I mean, gosh, experiences that have just been out of this world, to be honest. So I don't want you to miss out. Okay, are you ready? Let's chat about the most anticipated new romance books I cannot wait to read in 2025, starting with, you guessed it, Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros, which releases January 21st. And okay, yes, this book is a romantasy, a fantasy romance. So it's also on my list of most anticipated romantasy books. So, as I said, your TBR list is going to be filled with only 49 books from both lists, but I couldn't not include it on this list because everyone will be reading it, I think, next year. Am I right? Or at least everyone who has fallen down that rabbit hole of the Fourth Wing series and has become obsessed with Violet and Xaden like I have. So this is book 3 in the series, and Iron Flame, book 2, left us with a bit of a cliffhanger. I am dying to know what's in store for Xaden. I want to know more about the dragons, right? And of course, how Violet is going to step up once again to save the day. Though I kind of wonder what the cliffhanger is going to be for this one, because we still have 2 more books to go after Onyx Storm in the series. But gosh, January 21st cannot come fast enough. The first book I'm most excited to read in 2025. Now, next up on my list is Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young, which will be releasing on January 28th. I am so excited to announce it here. I've already announced it to the group, but Out of the Woods is going to be our February 2025 book of the month for the She Reads Romance Books book club, which means Hannah Bonham Young is going to join us. And I think I just need a second or two to fully grasp that. Hannah is joining book club. We are going to get to chat with her about this book and her previous work, which have been some of my most favorite romance books of all time. So I am beyond excited, you guys, for January for this book to drop and for February to come to talk with Hannah. It's going to be awesome. I'm also looking forward to this book as well because it's about a married couple. And we talked about this in our book club meeting in November, that you really don't see a lot of romance books about married couples, or probably more estranged marriages, because, it needs to have this happy ending. But here is one. And I love how Hannah has shared that she loosely based this on her own life, as she herself married her high school sweetheart just out of school, I believe. But if you haven't heard of it, here is what the book is about. High school sweethearts Sarah and Caleb Linwood have always been a sure thing. For the past 17 years, they have had each other's backs through all of life's ups and downs. But Sarah has begun to wonder, who is she without her other half? When she decides to take on a project of her own, a fundraising gala in memory of her late mother, Sarah wants nothing more than to prove to herself and to everyone else that she doesn't need Caleb's help to succeed. She's still her mother's daughter, after all, independent and capable. That is, until the event fails and Caleb uninvitedly steps in to save the day. The rift that follows unearths a decade of grievances and doubts. Are they truly the same people they were when they got married at 19? Are they supposed to be? In a desperate attempt to fix what they fear is breaking, Sarah and Caleb make the spontaneous decision to get out of their comfort zones and join a grueling hiking trip intended to guide couples through rough patches. What follows is a life-affirming comedy of errors as 2 nature-averse people fight their way out of the woods in order to find their way back to their roots. Oh my gosh, I will honestly read anything that Hannah writes, which is why this is one of my most anticipated new romance books of 2025. Put it on your TBR list, pre-order it now, join book club. I'm just super, super excited for this new romance. Okay, next on my list is Left of Forever by Tara DeWitt, which is releasing on May 20th, 2025. And never have I ever gotten so hooked on secondary characters with just a few cameo spots in a book like I have with the hero and heroine whose story we will finally get in this second chance romance. And here is what it's about. Ren and Ellis Bird fell in love as kids, had their son Sam when they were only teenagers, and built a life together in the coastal town of Spoons, Oregon. They were made for one another until they fell apart. Now divorced and in their 30s, Ren runs the bakery in town while Ellis works as a firefighter. They live separate lives that they are hardly off each other's minds. When Sam gets accepted into college and the pair help him move in together, Ellis convinces Ren to take an extended road trip back to Spoons with him to see if they can give their relationship one last chance. Amid the gorgeous scenery of the California coastline, dreamy destinations, and a great deal of long yearned for proximity, Ren starts to think it just might be possible. But the two still have to contend with their tumultuous past in order to move forward. And when spoken words fail, sometimes the written word must bridge the gap. Will they make the most of what's left of forever, or will they let each other go for good? Let me just say, it's really hard to pick one book that I'm most looking forward to reading in 2025, but this one rivals the first two. I mean, all three. Like, I cannot wait to write because, as I said, when Ren and Ellis just made a few cameos in Tara's 2024 release, Savor It, which I absolutely loved, by the way, those moments alone had me clamoring for more of these two. I need their happily ever after like it was yesterday and hope that this will be such a satisfying second chance romance. I also love the road trip aspect of this story, so I'm putting it out there now. I really hope that Tara will join us for book club this year because I need to talk about this book. So start now and read Savor It to get ready for this one that will drop in May of 2025. All right, the next book I know is already on a lot of people's radar and to read lists, and that is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, which releases on April 1st of next year. So this book, just like Emily Henry's new upcoming release and Allie Hazelwood's new upcoming release and Carly Fortune's new upcoming release, are, of course, on my most anticipated list when it comes to these mega popular authors. But this one I wanted to talk about and is on my list because I just love how Abby rips my heart out with her books and yet gives the most satisfying, love stories and happy endings. I feel like her writing is flawless and she makes it look so easy to craft a thought-worthy and swoon-worthy romance. Her books are like 5-star reads for me, and I'm hoping that this one will be as well for 2025. And here's what it's about. There might be no such a thing as a perfect guy, but Xavier Rush comes disastrously close. A gorgeous veterinarian giving Greek god vibes, all while cuddling a tiny kitten? Immediately, yes. That is until Xavier opens his mouth and proves that even sculpted gods can say the absolute wrong thing, like really wrong. Of course, there's nothing Samantha loves more than proving an asshole wrong, unless, of course, he can admit he made a mistake. But after one incredible and seemingly endless date, possibly the best in living history, Samantha is forced to admit the truth that her family is in crisis and any kind of relationship would be impossible. Samantha begs Xavier to forget her, to remember their night together as a perfect moment, as crushing as that may be. Only no amount of distance or time is nearly enough to forget that something between them. And the only thing better than one single perfect memory is to make a life and even a love worth remembering. So I already know to increase my tissue box order come April because Abby always brings me to tears with her incredible romances. I'm already tearing up knowing Samantha and Xavier are so meant for each other and yet will be forced apart. I don't know how long. I'm worried about that, but I cannot wait for this book And I have a feeling you will be hearing more about this in the coming year from me. I just cannot wait to read it. Okay, another one of my most anticipated new romance books of 2025 I definitely had to talk about is Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage, which will also release in April on April 15th. This will be the fourth and final book in her Rebel Blue series, which is fantastic, especially if you love hot cowboys. And yes, yes, I do. I love when a series in particular introduces you to a character or characters who you slowly get to know in the earlier books, but you have to wait till the final book in this series for their happily ever after. So in this series, I love Cam. She's the single mom who, along with Gus, presents like co-parenting goals for raising their child together. But I need her love story with Dusty like it was yesterday. And here is what it's about. Camille Ashwood had always loved a plan. Her latest was her best yet. She was going to get married so she could secure her daughter's future, get her overbearing parents off her back, and finally start building her own life in small town Meadowlark, Wyoming. Easy, right? But when her groom doesn't show up to the wedding, Cam's life is turned upside down. She doesn't even have a place to live. That is, until she finds out the house she's loved since high school is available to rent. There's only one problem: the neighbor. Dusty Tucker has spent nearly all of his adult life running. Running from what, though? More like who? Cam Ashwood. But ever since he returned home last year, the girl who was his first, well, everything, has become a woman seemingly determined to keep him at arm's length. And he was okay with that. At least that's what he kept telling himself. She was getting married after all, but now she's single and living next door. Dusty wants to show her that they can be friends and that he can stay put. Despite her best attempts to stay far away from Dusty Tucker, Cam realizes that being close to him is like slipping on her favorite jeans. Easy, comfortable. That is, until past wounds start to open and feelings both old and new wreak havoc. Nearly 10 years after they first met, Dusty and Cam begin to wonder if their first love can also be their last. And this time, will it be forever? So, I'm already obsessed with Dusty, I tell ya. There's just something about a pining hero who has loved the heroine from afar for so long that has me clamoring to get inside his brain and know his feelings. Like, he was going to let the love of his life marry someone else, and I need to know what happens when he finds out that the wedding doesn't happen. I mean, oh my gosh. So excited for this one, which I think will rival Lost and Lassoed as my favorite in the series. I'm super desperate for Dusty and Cam's happily ever after, knowing their history and gosh, his freaking tattooed arms. I just love it. It's a second chance romance not to miss in 2025. All right, the next book on my list, or is on my list, I should say, because I already read it and I loved it. And that is First Time Caller by B.K. Borson, which releases on February 11th. I'm so glad that you only have a few months to wait for this new release because it's just wonderful. If you love rom-com movies like I do and grew up loving Sleepless in Seattle like I did, then just go ahead and pre-order this already because that movie is the inspiration to the story. And here is what it's about. Aiden Valentine has a secret. He's fallen out of love with love. And as the host of Baltimore's Romance Hotline, that's a bit of a problem. But when a young girl calls into the station asking for dating advice for her mom, the interview goes viral, thrusting Aiden and heartstrings into the limelight. Lucy Stone thought she was doing just fine. She has a good job, an incredible family, and a smart, slightly devious kid. But when all of Baltimore is suddenly scrutinizing her love life, or lack thereof, she begins to question if she's as happy as she believed. Maybe a little more romance wouldn't be such a bad thing. Everyone wants Lucy to find her happy ending, even the handsome, temperamental man calling the shots. But when sparks fly behind the scenes, Lucy must make the final decision between the radio-sponsored Happily Ever After or the man in the headphones next to her. This new romance release has already captured a spot on my best romance books of 2025 list. I'm just telling you right now. If you loved Borison's Love Light Farm series, then definitely jump in because her magic continues with this new series. that she's starting that has honestly like the best found family and look at what it really means to let yourself fall in love, especially if you've been disillusioned with it in the past. The moments when these 2 were at the radio station together was like a lesson in chemistry. It was so good. I loved it, and it should not be missed. I'm super excited that BK is gonna be joining me on the podcast here soon, so stay tuned for that episode where I'm gonna chat with her about this romance. The next new romance book release for 2025 that I wanted to highlight is The Charlie Method by Elle Kennedy, which releases on February 25th. So, this is the third book in her Campus Diary series. I honestly have only read the first book in the series, The Graham Effect, but just from reading that book, I knew that I need Will and Beckett's joint story like it was yesterday. And here is what The Charlie Method then is about. College senior Charlotte Kingston is living 2 lives, and she's nailing both of them. By day, she's the perfect sorority girl, a STEM student in biomedical engineering, and the adopted daughter of an overachiever family. At night, she's Charlie, a risk taking daredevil looking for fun who finds herself chatting on a dating app with 2 anonymous hotties. Will Larson may seem like the breezy boy next door, but his congressman father is a constant thorn in his side. After a scandal hits another Division I hockey program, Will's dad is determined to distance his son from it, hiring a journalist to prove how squeaky clean Will and his team are. Which means the last thing Will wants is for anyone to find out he and his best friend, Beckett Doone, a laid back Aussie shielding secret heartache, sometimes share girls in the bedroom. When Charlie finally meets them in person and realizes she's been chatting with 2 gorgeous Briar U hockey players, things get steamy and fast. But all their messy secrets are piling up, and real life soon threatens to shatter the fantasy. With Charlie, Will, and Beckett all coming to terms with what they want and what others want for them, difficult decisions will need to be made, especially when lust starts to look a lot like love. Oh my gosh, I feel like I need to read that again because it sets this book up so, so well. So, Elle Kennedy is my go to author for new adult romance, and ever since I learned about Will and Beckett's kink to share, I have been counting down the minutes for this book. I have no idea how it's going to turn out, but I am super excited and all in for this one in 2025, and I think you should be too. Okay, a few more to go, people. Another must read romance book release for 2025 that I can't wait to read is Can't Get Enough by Kennedy Ryan, which releases May 13th of 2025. And I know I'm not the only one anticipating this book if you read any of the other 2 books in her Skyland series, which honestly has like rocketed Kennedy to stardom. But here is what this one is about. She's a woman with goals, dreams, ambitions, always striving upward. And in the midst of everything, she's facing her toughest challenge yet, caring for an aging parent. Who has time for romance? From her experience, there's a low ROI on relationships. She hasn't met the man who can keep up with her anyway, until him. Tech mogul Maverick Bell is a dilemma wrapped in an exquisitely tailored suit and knee-melting charm. From their first charged glance at the summer's hottest party, Hendrix feels like she's met her match, only he can't be. Mav may be the first to make her feel this seen and desired and appreciated, but he's the last one she can have. Forbidden fruit is the juiciest, and this man is off limits if she plans to stay the course she's set for herself. But when Maverick gives chase, pursuing her, spoiling her, understanding her, is it time to let herself have something more? Wow, love it already. Cannot wait to read it. This whole series focuses on 3 close girlfriends, and we are finally, as it made clear, getting Hendrix's story in this new romance book. But I'll be sad, really, to see the Skyland series come to an end with it. But Hendrix, as we sort of learned from the previous 2 books, is just super independent, doesn't need a man, doesn't want children, and she's just this powerhouse that I adore. And the last books hinted, I mean, it says she has an aging parent, but the last books hinted at her having her mom ailing with Alzheimer's, I believe. And I really hope that that's part of the story. So we shall see. But I feel like Kennedy Ryan always makes a point to really have a message with her books, and I hope it's kind of about dealing with aging parents as well, because I just think that would really hit home for a lot of people. But in the meantime, before this book drops, let's just admire the book cover because it's stunning. I absolutely, absolutely love it and cannot wait to read this book this coming May. Okay. Now, these next two books, man, Be Still My Heart. I cannot believe we're getting them in 2025. And the first is Rewind It Back by Liz Tomford, which releases April 24th. It's her final book in the Windy City series, and it's going to be Rio's story, people. Finally. If you've read any of the previous books in this series, then you, of course, have fallen for Rio, the hockey player, obsessed with Ryan Shea, who is just one of the girls, really, and who really, 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 really wants to fall in love, but just hasn't found his person yet. I have no idea if this is going to be a second chance love story or maybe a friends to lovers story, given the title. We shall see because as of now, this recording, we don't know the book summary. We don't have a book cover, but none of that stopped me from adding this to my list because I need it so badly. I put Play Along on my most anticipated list for 2024 without a summary, without a book cover, because I knew I needed Isaiah's story. And oh my gosh, it was like a 5-star read for me this year. So doing the same with Rewind It Back, knowing that I'm just going to absolutely love Rio's story as well. All right, the next book that I am mooning over is Severed Heart by Kate Stewart, which releases on April 29th. I know she said that date might change, just given that she had to deal with, gosh, that whole hurricane mess when she was finishing this book. And I love you, Kate. Hope everything is working itself out in Western North Carolina. But any of Kate's readers who have become obsessed with the Ravenhood series is chomping at the bit for this story and the next book that releases in December of 2025 called Birds of a Feather. But here is what Severed Heart is about. Once upon a time, there lived an ambitious boy determined to become a man before his time, and a woman and battered soldier who recognized the scars that marred his soul, scars which mirrored her own. Determined to help shape the warrior within him, it was their inexplicable bond that would forever alter his heart, and the loss of that love that would redefine his destiny. After all, nothing has ever been fair in love and war. Okay, probably hard to understand what that means if you haven't read the Ravenhood series. So to catch you up, the Ravenhood series is about Cecilia and the Ravenhood Brotherhood, which included Dom, Sean, and Tobias, and Tyler. And this is finally Tyler's story. Oh gosh. This one I think it's like a prequel story. It looks back at Tyler and his love for Dom and Tobias's aunt. And then Birds of a Feather that I said will drop in December, hopefully will give us his new love story in sort of the present time. So I am so excited, so excited for both of these books to drop this year and to just get me obsessed all over again with these birds in the series because it's phenomenal. If you've ever read it, then you know that you just become obsessed and need like a couple months after to recover from these books. But that's okay. I'm all ready for it in 2025. And so there you have it. That wraps up 10 or maybe a few more of my most anticipated new romance book releases for 2025. Again, to see all 25 on my list, go to shereadsromancebooks.com where you'll find, as I mentioned, Emily Henry's new book, Ali Hazelwood's, Carly Fortune's, Catherine Center, Annabelle Monaghan, and so many more that I cannot wait to get my hands on from these amazing authors in 2025. But I want to hear which new romance books you are looking forward to reading in 2025. So be sure to share in my Facebook group, the She Reads Romance Books Reader Lounge, if you have a second. And I'll say, since we're heading into the new year, it is the perfect time to get a new copy of the Romance Book Reading Journal to track all of these must-read books. I love this journal so much because I created it for the romance book reader. It has pages to track your TBR list, your daily, monthly, and yearly reading habits, and of course, ample pages to write book reviews. But it also has so many romance-specific pages, such as tracking your favorite book boyfriends, your favorite romance series, and your favorite books by, like, so many different tropes. I mean, there's just a plethora of options there in this romance journal. I love it, and I hope you will snag a paperback or hardcover or a printable version that works best for you. I will include a link for it in the show notes so you can easily grab it and be all set and ready for 2025. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. And of course, until next time, happy reading because life is better with a love story. That's all for this episode of the She Reads Romance Books podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and found some new books to add to your TBR list. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. It really helps me reach more romance book lovers like you, and I appreciate your support. If you're a book boyfriend collector like me, then you'll want to join my email list so you never miss a podcast episode or a new book list. Just visit shereadsromancebooks.com/join and sign up today. As a thank you, I'll instantly send you my list of top 10 book boyfriends that will make you swoon. Trust me, you don't want to miss this list. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.